Upgrade points from Attack on Titan. Report. 9%. Chapter 31. Krista, arriving at the farm 3/4. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. The sky is sparsely populated with stars scattered around a thin crescent moon. Scattered starlight fell on the earth. The temperature in the air is pitifully low. A black feral cat squats beside a dirt road in the countryside. Its green eyes stared at a fat mouse in the middle of the dirt road. In the middle of the dirt road, a fat mouse looked around all the time. After feeling that there was no danger, it picked up half a peanut on the road in front of it. Just as he was about to enjoy it, he was bitten by the neck by a leaping black cat. The half peanut in the mouse's mouth was still biting, and the black cat had broken its spine and died completely. Meow. A carriage came galloping from afar. The black cat screamed in fright, jumped off the road in a hurry, and ran into the farmland on the other side in a panic. What was the sound just now? Looks like a cat. You sleep for a while, we will be there soon. Elizabeth, who had fallen asleep leaning on Lin Yan's shoulder in the carriage, was awakened by the meowing of cats. She looked at herself snuggled into Lin Yan's arms in a daze, her face blushed involuntarily. Lin Yan covered Elizabeth with a blanket, he opened the curtain on the side of the carriage with one hand, and looked outside. Looking at the low mountains looming in the sky. Lin Yan knew that they were not far from the farm. Fran, you can slow down a bit. Fran, who was driving in front of the carriage, heard Lin Yan's words, and slowly slowed down the speed of the carriage. Advertisement. They have been rushing all the way to leave the capital quickly. Da 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 da. The carriage turned the corner of a hill, and suddenly the sound of horses sounded, and Frank couldn't help but feel his heart sink. At the first moment, he thought of the Survey Corps ambush. Just when Fran was about to draw out the knife on his waist and meet the enemy, he saw the little boy in the lead who was lying on the horse with a surprised expression on his face. Boss, Levi and the others are here. Lin Yan heard Fran's voice, and he got off the carriage. Watching Levi lead the hunter group of 50 people, fully armed. Lin Yan guessed what Levi wanted to do in an instant. Why are you all carrying weapons? Are you going to attack the capital? When Levi saw Lin Yan coming down, he went up to meet him, and the worries in his heart dissipated. In the past 2 days, there has been no news of Lin Yan, and Levi is restless. Unable to bear it any longer, he set off from the farm with the whole hunter group and headed straight for the capital. If Lin Yan has any problems, he is bound to fight the military police regiment to the death. However, before Levi and the others ran away, they met Lin Yan who came back. Hearing Lin Yan's words, Levi rarely blushed. As the deputy head of the hunter group, he was taught by Lin Yan to be calm and put the overall situation first. But this time, he not only disobeyed Lin Yan's order, but also did something extremely irrational. Even as Lin Yan said, he planned to take 50 people to attack the capital. Lin Yan looked at the members of the hunter group with their heads down, pondered for a moment, and said lightly. Okay, let's all go back before dawn. Levi, I won't punish you this time, I won't make an example. Advertisement. Hearing Lin Yan's words, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Although they have good intentions. However, the hunter group has strict rules, and the punishment for disobeying orders is extremely severe. Therefore, when Lin Yan asked them if they were going to attack the capital, everyone couldn't help feeling tense. They were trained by Lin Yan since they were young, but they knew that when Lin Yan punished people, they would have to peel off their skin if they didn't die. Time flies. In a blink of an eye, 3 days passed. It is snowing in the sky. The clear sky of a few days ago has disappeared. The snowflakes are slowly falling down. In the wilderness, as far as the eye can see, it is all white. Inside a manor, by the attic window of a small house on the 3rd floor of the castle. A long blonde hair, big cat eyes showing the blue sky. The little girl exuding innate holiness was lying by the window. Her big blue eyes looked out of the manor, a group of people busy in the snow on the farm next door. Eyes full of yearning and curiosity. Krista, what are you doing? What's so interesting about the way those inferior people work? The little girl is watching engrossed. Suddenly an elderly lady with a wrinkled face came in from the door, with a stern face and a stern tone. The little girl is none other than Krista. That is, Historia Reese, who is called a goddess. Advertisement. As the illegitimate daughter of Rod Reese, the supreme ruler of the world inside the walls. Her mother conceived out of wedlock, which was regarded as an illegal thing, so she could never recognize her father. At the age of 8, she lived in the manor with her grandmother and mother. Hearing her grandmother's stern voice, Krista shuddered. The petite she leaned against the wall by the window, unable to speak. Grandma's indifferent and disgusted eyes made her tremble. Clean up the dishes later, and tidy up the study. Seeing the back of the grandmother who finished speaking and left. Krista reluctantly looked out the window again. In the snow, a group of strong teenagers are working in full swing. Hot mist rose from their bodies, and each of them carried heavy wood and moved quickly. Bring over the longest piece of wood and move it here. Fran, push to the left, yes, that's it. ... Although it is still snowing in the sky. But Lin Yan didn't feel the cold at all. He directed the crowd and built the wooden house. Although they had prepared in advance this time, things happened too hastily. Although the farm they bought had a house built, but more than 50 core staff, plus more than 200 peripheral staff, the original farmhouse is far from enough. Upgrade points from Attack on Titan. Report 1. 9%. Chapter 32. The Tragedy of the Bastard Daughter, Meeting Krista 4 quarters. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. So after arriving here, Lin Yan began to direct people to build houses. Boss, have a cup of hot milk. There are so many cows in the farm next door. I bought a lot of milk back. Elizabeth handed a cup of steaming milk to Lin Yan's hand. After moving here, she has become a big housekeeper. She has been shopping for supplies and food everywhere these days. Lin Yan took the milk and took a sip, although he didn't know whose manor next to him belonged. But judging from the size of the opponent's farm and the castle in the manor, it is obvious that they are not ordinary people. However, Lin Yan didn't care. The most important thing now is to build the wooden house quickly. Leave the underground street of the royal capital and go to the farm north of Sheena's wall. Except for a large sum of gold coins and some workshop equipment, Lin Yan has nothing else. Looking in front of him, there were only 4 low wooden houses on the huge and vast farm. Lin Yan knows that he still has a lot of work ahead. A month later, it's already February. The blue sky is like a blue wash, not a single cloud can be seen in the sky, and the temperature is starting to warm up. In the originally silent field, the sound of insects gradually increased. Inside the Hunter Group farm, 3 rows of uniform wooden houses were built. Boom boom boom. Around the farm, the hunters were strengthening the fences around the farm. Others began to plow the land in the farm according to the cultivation method given by Lin Yan. A flock of birds scrambled for the dugout worms in the turned-up land. Advertisement. This group of brats don't look like they've been farming. It must be some noble lord who came here to experience life. Around the hunter's farm, a few old farmers watched the new members of the hunter group laboriously plow the land. There was some confusion in their eyes. In their view, such an approach is a waste of effort. They are not optimistic about these muscular boys. But they didn't intend to remind them, they just left with a sigh. Lin Yan rode a horse and inspected the situation inside the farm. He didn't take it seriously when he heard these farmers' comments. People in this world still don't understand the benefits of deep farming. After all, the people inside these walls are missing too many things. Go away, don't come near here. We don't play with cowards, hit her. Just when Lin Yan inspected the border of the farm, he saw a group of children chasing a little blonde girl away. A lot of dirt, grass roots and the like were thrown on the little girl. This little girl, Lin Yan is no stranger. A month ago, when the hunter group was building the farmhouse, Lin Yan often saw the little girl secretly watching them build the house. And when Lin Yan went to the farm next door to buy milk, he saw this girl from a distance. But for some unknown reason, this girl seems to have been isolated all the time. Every time Lin Yan sees her, she is alone. Advertisement. Boom, 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 ... Riding on the horse, Lin Yan casually picked a few shriveled wild fruits from a tree on one side. With a random flick, the wild fruit shot out, hitting many children who bullied the little girl. Ouch, my head hurts so much. Wow, wow, wow. In the blink of an eye, the 3 little kids were beaten by Lin Yan, covering their foreheads and crying. Next time, don't let me see you at my farm. Hearing Lin Yan's words, the children covered their heads and ran away quickly. The eyes looking at Lin Yan are full of fear. After dispersing a few children, Lin Yan continued his inspection on horseback. Wait a minute, big brother. This sweet potato is for you. It's my breakfast, gu. The little blonde girl who had just been bullied saw Lin Yan preparing to leave. She stood up from the ground and handed the sweet potato to Lin Yan. Lin Yan looked at the sweet potato in the little girl's hand and heard the little girl's stomach growling. He was a little surprised that the little girl was kind and sensible that didn't match her age. Thank you for the sweet potatoes, I am the lord of this farm. If you're coming to my farm to play, don't be sneaky. Advertisement. Taking the sweet potato from the little girl, Lin Yan took out a paper-wrapped jerky from the bag on his waist as a gift in return. Gave it to the girl. My name is Krista, and I live in the manor. Can I really go to the big brother's farm? Krista took the jerky from Lin Yan and wrapped it carefully. Although there is no shortage of meat on her farm, there are not many opportunities for her to eat meat. Hearing Lin Yan's words, she looked at Lin Yan happily, and couldn't believe it. She has been isolated since she was a child, and it is the first time that someone doesn't hate her so much. Lin Yan was riding on the horse and heard Krista's words. He almost choked while eating sweet potatoes. Of course he knew who Krista was. But he didn't expect that he just bought a farm. As a result, it was so coincidental that it was next to the farm where Krista was. Looking at Krista who looked at her expectantly, Lin Yan nodded slightly. He instantly understood why a group of ordinary kids dared to bully Krista in front of him. As the illegitimate daughter of the royal family, it is a stain on the royal family. This is why Krista's mother was later killed. The reason why she was cut off from her father-daughter relationship by her own father and exiled to the frontier. In addition, during Krista's childhood, her family was very repulsed by her accidental product. Upgrade points from Attack on Titan. Report 3. 9%. Chapter 33. Kill the Titan. Lin Yan starts again, 1 quarter. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. So I always hate her. Therefore, Krista, who has been neglected for a long time, even as a royal family, because she does not have the support of her own family. Only then will he be bullied by the children of the manor. Even Lin Yan guessed that these children threatened and bullied her. Maybe there are reasons behind her family not letting her leave the manor. Lin Yan left on horseback. He wanted to make some preparations for something, and he knew it while biting a sweet potato. In a few years, it will be time for the Titan to break the wall. Ding. Congratulations to the host, the points progress has reached 100%, points plus 1 inch. Just when Lin Yan finished eating the sweet potatoes, the system's prompt sounded in his mind. Then Lin Yan opened the system panel. System panel. Host. Lin Yan. Current world. Attack on Titan. Physique. 8-6 meter level unscaled Titan level. Points. 1-0. Skills. Fighting LV6, Forging LV5, Brewing LV2, Cooking LV1, 3-dimensional mobile device manipulation LV0. Seeing another point accumulated on his panel, Lin Yan looked at the control of the 3-dimensional mobile device. Add some 3-dimensional mobile device control. After Lin Yan's selection was completed, the system's voice sounded again. Advertisement. Ding. Congratulations to the host for upgrading to LV1 and gaining 10 years of experience in operating 3-dimensional mobile devices. With the sound of the system ends, a large number of actual combat memories of 3-dimensional mobile devices appeared in Lin Yan's mind. Immediately, Lin Yan's muscles, and subconsciously, the fighting instinct and fighting consciousness of the 3-dimensional mobile device were integrated into his limbs and bones. Lin Yan can feel it. My own control of the 3-dimensional mobile device has undergone a radical change in an instant, reaching a very high level. After adding points, Lin Yan rode his horse and left. Watching Lin Yan leave, Krista, holding the dried meat in her hand, did not look away for a long time. For the first time in so many years, she felt other people's kindness and concern for her. Krista felt a ray of light shine into her gray life. Lin Yan's tall and straight back, and the tough face was deeply engraved in Krista's mind. Evening. The red clouds in the sky are shining on the earth, and the warm evening wind is blowing the whole field. People who had worked for a day came back one after another. In the farm of the hunter group, everyone sat around the open-air table and had dinner. More than 50 core members, plus more than 200 peripheral personnel, one by one greedily looked at the sun in the west. For them who grew up in the underground street, it is a day like looking at Hongxia according to the sun. It had been their lifelong dream. But now they got it early. Everyone looked at Lin Yan, who was sitting in the middle, enjoying his dinner quietly. Advertisement. Grateful eyes. If it wasn't for Lin Yan, they would have fed rats and wild dogs long ago. The sun can be seen there. Do you think Titan is scary? Lin Yan sat together with Isabel, Levi, and Fran. After eating, they chatted as usual. It didn't take long for Lin Yan to throw out this question. Lin Yan knew that it was impossible for him to hide in the city wall for the rest of his life. It will be a matter of time before it confronts the Titan. So, after things on the farm got on the right track, Lin Yan started to prepare a new plan. Fight with Titan to improve everyone's actual combat ability. Certainly terrible. However, with the boss here, we are not afraid of anything. Hearing Lin Yan's words, the three of Levi began to meditate, and Fran gave the answer first. Although I have never been in contact with Titan, but as a resident of the world inside the wall, the horror of Titan has long been deeply ingrained in Fran's mind. He grew up listening to all kinds of Titan horror stories since he was a child. Fran is right, as long as the boss is around, we won't be afraid. Isabel looked at Lin Yan. She was a little puzzled why Lin Yan asked this suddenly. However, although she knew that the Titan was scary, she somehow felt that the Titan was nothing in front of Lin Yan. Boss, you are not going to deal with the Titan, are you? Levi didn't stick to Lin Yan's question itself. He vaguely had some guesses about Lin Yan's next plan. Advertisement. When Lin Yan heard Levi's answer, the corners of his mouth slightly raised an arc. Nodding appreciatively towards Levi, Levi is still as smart as ever. Just from one of his questions, he could detect his next plan. Now with the support of a farm and far away from the capital, Lin Yan is no longer subject to various restrictions as before. It is no longer like before, running around for food every day. The flowers in the greenhouse cannot withstand the wind and rain. This is a very simple truth. Therefore, Lin Yan decided to lead the crowd to conduct Titan combat training. Now there are mostly ordinary Titans outside the city walls. Those perverted Titans. It's still a few years away. Therefore, Lin Yan can take advantage of this time to sharpen his influence. In the next period of time, Levi led the hunter group to the Black Forest to train the 3-dimensional mobile device. I'll get the gas supply out of the way for you guys, and I'm going out. Lin Yan is going to go to the world outside the wall to accumulate experience in hunting titans. Now after Lin Yan's years of training, the people under him are completely capable of being independent. Although Levi had guessed, he was still a little surprised by Lin Yan's decision. After all, fighting a titan is not as simple as it sounds. Boss, can I go with you? We want to go with the boss too. Okay, there will be opportunities in the future, this time I will go and see the situation first. Upgrade points from Attack on Titan. Report, 8, 10%. Chapter 34. Meeting Eren by chance, reaching the border 2 quarters. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Hear Lin Yan's words. Isabel, Levi and Fran were faintly worried. They know how dangerous the Titan is, so they all want to go with Lin Yan. There is more or less a care. Lin Yan knew that the 3 of them were worried about him, but they were still very immature now. Lin Yan himself has no experience fighting against Titans, if his physique has not been raised to the level of Wugo Titans. He will not take risks lightly. There are other things that he needs to verify. Half a month later, Higanshina district, south of Wall Maria. It was drizzling in the sky, and the residents on both sides of the street were looking forward to the location of the city gate. Concern was on people's faces, and some even began to pray. Many people even closed their eyes. Kaka kaka. Soon the Survey Corps and the garrison troops slowly entered from outside the city. The heavy footsteps of the soldiers. The hearts of everyone who were worried were suddenly raised in their throats. As the convoy entered the city, carriages carrying dead bodies appeared in front of everyone. Failed again. Titan is really invincible. Advertisement. Ache, you said that you will come back alive, ah. My son, I saw corpses being transported to the city. The onlookers seem to have long been accustomed to it. The family members of those soldiers burst into tears when they saw the dead bodies of their loved ones. At the gate of the city, there were cries and sighs. Among them was a tall boy with a tough face. Looking at the corpses being transported into the city in front of him, there was no expression in his eyes. The boy is Lin Yan. As a wanted man, the southern Seganzina district was clearly far more favorable to his operation. Secondly, this is also the place where the plot of the original novel begins, and it is easier for Lin Yan to control some things. At least some key time points, event-oriented, he knows, so it is much safer. Looking at the wailing crowd. There are also corpses being transported into the city in a steady stream, as well as dejected soldiers with dull eyes. Just standing in the crowd, Lin Yan could feel the strong breath of despair in the air. Lin Yan also began to understand why in the original book, so many people couldn't muster the courage to face the Titan. Because they see no hope. Since the appearance of Titan, mankind has never achieved a real victory in decades. This makes the concept of Titan invincible deeply rooted. In the team, Pixis, who was wrinkled, bald, and with a gray mustache, was riding on a horse. Hearing the wailing of the soldiers' families around him, Pixis closed his eyes in pain. He can rush to the man-eating Titan without hesitation, and can face death calmly. But he couldn't look directly into the eyes of the families of the sacrificed soldiers. Advertisement. Commander Pixis, may I ask, what did you get for this sacrifice? Is there any battle result that can match the many soldiers who died? ... The angry family members around questioned loudly. They rushed to Pixis crying and screaming, and the scene was a mess. Lin Yan looked at the messy scene, shook his head, turned and left, and his plan could start when it got dark. How did he appear here? Pixie glanced and saw a familiar person. Lin Yan. Although Pixis has only met Lin Yan twice, Lin Yan left a deep impression on him. Pixis heard about the royal capital. He also knew that Lin Yan was probably framed. But he has been stationed to deal with Titan's affairs. Even though he wanted to do his part for Lin Yan, he couldn't do it all the time. After all, from a certain point of view, Lin Yan actually helped him a lot. At least the soldiers have improved a lot in terms of supplies in winter. So when he saw Lin Yan appearing, he felt a little relieved. However, he also had doubts about why Lin Yan appeared here. But after thinking about it for a while, Pixis was relieved. It is nearly 500 kilometers away from the capital, and it is indeed a very safe place. Seeing Lin Yan walking away, Pixis turned his eyes back. He looked at Erwin who was beside him, who was a little discouraged, with a smile on his face, patted Erwin on the shoulder, and said, "Everything shall pass. The city wall in the southeast corner is a bit damaged, remember to arrange people to guard it." Advertisement. Erwin nodded when he heard Pixis' words. Since he failed to catch up with Lin Yan's group last time, he returned to the border. The Titan change here needs to be handled by Survey Corps. The Survey Corps suffered a disastrous loss this time. Nearly 50% of the manpower was lost. As the head of the Survey Corps, he was naturally to blame. In a small alley, Lin Yan puts his own horse into the yard he just bought. This is his temporary base. Lin Yan put 2 wooden boxes on his horse and pushed the door open. Inside the wooden box is a 3-dimensional mobile device that he improved, as well as a lot of supplementary gas. Crackling. Lin Yan pushed open the window, there was no one in the room for a long time, and there was some humidity. The street is outside the window, and many children can be seen running around. Eren, go home for dinner. Yes, Mom, come here. Just when Lin Yan was about to leave the window to check his equipment and prepare for the night's action, Lin Yan was stunned by the sound from the street outside. A little boy was playing with several children, and a woman's voice came from the opposite street. Lin Yan did not expect that he would meet Eren so soon. Seeing Eren running home for dinner, Lin Yan didn't pay too much attention, he started to check the equipment. The drizzle in the sky had completely stopped when it got dark. Upgrade points from Attack on Titan. Report, 10%. Chapter 35. Out of the city, the battle begins 3/4. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Lin Yan rested on the bed, waiting for the opportunity. Since his physique became stronger, Lin Yan could clearly feel that his senses had been strengthened a lot. This has also led to Lin Yan's high requirements for the sleeping environment. The keen five senses brought Lin Yan a huge boost in strength at the same time. Also added some minor annoyances. For example, now, Lin Yan is lying on the bed, and can clearly hear some shower inappropriate voices. Time passed by every minute and every second. 1 point. Lin Yan, whose eyes were closed, opened them. It rained during the day, but there was indeed a moon hanging in the sky at night. The streets were deserted. The air was a bit cold, and a man and a horse passed by on the dark street. Tuck tuck tuck. The horseshoe, wrapped in cloth, fell on the stone slab and made a muffled, extremely low sound. Lin Yan could vaguely see the outline of the huge city wall in the distance while riding on horseback. Still 50 meters of clouds, still so majestic. It's so unattainable. It's as if a wall of isolation has been erected on the horizon, making it impossible for people to see a glimmer of hope to get out. Lin Yan arrived at the foot of the city wall, which is a residential area. Advertisement. But in the middle of the night, the streets were already empty. It is only occasionally that soldiers of the garrison corps can be seen patrolling. Lin Yan hid his horse and started walking while wearing a three-dimensional mobile device. It is difficult to replenish the gas when it is exhausted. Therefore, when Lin Yan cannot use the three-dimensional mobile device, he chooses to rely on the body's functions as much as possible. Lin Yan has put a bridle on the horse's mouth. Make sure not to be spotted by patrol soldiers because of the roaring sound. Lin Yan looked at the high wall in the distance, and after planning the route, he started to set off at full speed. City wall. The leader of the Survey Corps, Erwin, walked slowly on the city wall. The failure of this operation against the Titan kept him awake at night. He looked at the peaceful residential area, feeling like a boulder was pressing on his heart. On a narrow street in a residential area, Lin Yan quickly ran out from a shadow. Between 2 or 3 jumps, he came to the roof closest to the city wall. The roof is about 100 meters away from the city wall, completely within the firing range of the three-dimensional mobile device. Break. Without any hesitation, Lin Yan pressed the trigger to fire the wire. Immediately after, his body followed quickly, and he soared into the air, forming a black shadow and flying towards the wall. Hurrah! Flying through the air, Lin Yan looked down at the rapidly blurred and receding houses below. Lin Yan can feel his speed is very fast. The gust of wind whizzing by his ears also reminded Lin Yan all the time that if he was a little careless, he would make an operation error. Advertisement. He's definitely going to break into a mess. Within a few breaths, Lin Yan had already reached the high wall fixed by the steel cables. Standing with both feet slanted in the sky, looking at the high wall dozens of meters below. Lin Yan wasn't nervous at all, and was even vaguely excited. After upgrading the operation of the three-dimensional mobile device to the first level, Forestry has 10 years of experience in using the three-dimensional mobile device. Lin Yan can even feel a strong sense of familiarity. One close and one release, very natural. Lin Yan quickly climbed up the wall, rushed across the wall, and came to the other side. Erwin, who was meditating on the city wall, felt a black light flashing in a place far away from him. Then the night went on as usual. The black shadow was too fast, and he was a little unsure if it was dazzled or something else. But he still chased after it. Night. The silence was eerie. A gust of cool wind gently drifted across the sky and landed on Lin Yan's face on top of the city wall. Lin Yan's 2 long legs wearing leather boots hang in the air outside the 50-meter-high city wall. Looking at the expressionless titans that are drowsy in the moonlight in the distance, they seem to die. 16 years after Lin Yan came to this world, he saw a living titan for the first time. Bang! Pulling out the knife, looking at the titan outside the city, Lin Yan's eyes flashed with fear. Lin Yan pushed forward, and his whole body jumped out of the city wall. Then it fell down quickly in a free fall. Sensing the whistling hurricane beside him, he watched the ground getting closer and closer to him. Advertisement. There are also trees and titans that are becoming clearer and clearer, and you can even smell the stench in the air. At the moment when it was almost approaching the ground, Lin Yan quickly pressed the trigger. Break. Immediately after, the steel rope was ejected violently. Lin Yan fixed on a big tree in the distance with precision and ease. Lin Yan's sharp gaze roughly scanned the distribution of titans on the ground. There are 3 titans directly below and near the city wall, generally around 5 to 8 meters. At this time, they were all falling asleep in a weird posture, with their eyes closed like a machine with no electricity. Lin Yan didn't dare to be careless, he knew that if he missed, Titan's bloody mouth will tear him apart. At the same time, on the city wall, Erwin couldn't help being horrified when he saw Lin Yan jumping off the city wall and entering the woods. What does that guy want? Don't die. Seeing Lin Yan rushing out of the city wall and entering the area where the Titans wandered, Erwin hesitated. Who is it? The 3-dimensional mobile device is so proficient in using it. Erwin's heart trembled. At this moment, his mind was full of doubts. Lin Yan just operated smoothly. Surprised him a little. Brush. Erwin thought for a while, then jumped off the city wall. Halfway down Erwin's waist shot a steel cable, stopping his fall. Then another steel cable shot towards the big tree ahead. He swung out and approached Lin Yan. Upgrade points from Attack on Titan. Report. 2. 10%. Chapter 36. Fighting, encountering strange species, 4 quarters. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. At the same time, Lin Yan, who was hanging on the big tree, was engrossed. Quickly scanned the surrounding environment. In just a moment, his 60 years of fighting experience in Now Haijong LV6 was fully activated. Lin Yan's fighting instinct began to mobilize the energy in his body. Heart rate starts to increase. Adrenal hormone accelerates secretion. The lungs also moved, taking in more oxygen. Lin Yan's muscles began to bulge, and his facial features became more acute. The 3-dimensional map of the surrounding environment seemed to reconstruct a virtual model in Lin Yan's mind under Lin Yan's glance. Lin Yan has a feeling that now, even with his eyes closed, he can fight these titans. Break. Without further hesitation, Lin Yan pressed the eject button, the steel cable shot out, and then Lin Yan flew out. Tightly holding the 2 short knives that he carefully forged in his hands, Lin Yan's eyes were like lightning, and he slashed towards the neck of the titan hugging the tree in the distance. Ah, a 13-meter-high titan that was wandering around with its eyes closed suddenly opened its lantern-sized eyes. Seeing Lin Yan's figure shooting out, he grabbed Lin Yan with a palm as big as a door panel. The face of a titan playing card, which did not change, looked particularly ferocious under the moonlight. It started to growl as it grabbed Lin Yan. With bursts of stench in the mouth, all the sleeping titans were awakened. Lin Yan's 1.8-meter body is like a baby in front of Titan's roaring slap. Advertisement. Before Wugo Titan's huge slap landed on Lin Yan's body, the wind from the palm had already blown Lin Yan's jet black hair into the air. Damn it, get out of the way, bastard. Erwin, who followed Lin Yan, saw this scene in the distance, and his heart sank. If Lin Yan was caught, he could foresee that Lin Yan would definitely be crushed into minced meat. Cha-cha. Before the pity and worry in Erwin's eyes dissipated. The dagger in Lin Yan's hand held the palm of the oncoming titan, everything to the end. The 13-meter-high Wugo titan, like a piece of tofu, was cut open by Lin Yan and split in 2. And Lin Yan shot out from between the 2 giant pieces of flesh. The speed of Lin Yan rushing forward did not decrease at all. Many titans who had just been awakened by the 13-meter Wugo titan had already surrounded Lin Yan. They either pounce, bite, or kick. 3 titans of different heights were staring at Lin Yan, attacking in disorder. Break. Break 1. Break. The 3-dimensional motorized device on Lin Yan's waist was continuously activated by him, making piercing friction sounds in the night sky. Climbing like a nimble ape in a titan forest. And like a superb gymnast, Lin Yan's body was in the air, constantly twisting and moving between the titan's body intertwined, and shuttled freely between the titans. His 3-dimensional mobile device, combined with a jump far beyond ordinary people. Advertisement. Like a nimble loach among the extremely dangerous titans, it escapes from several titans' grasps again and again. Pooh, pooh, pooh. The broad-bladed knife in Lin Yan's hand danced under the moonlight, and his flexible body matched his strength. And with the precise operation like a superb surgeon, he cut off the piece of flesh behind the neck of the titan that was blocking him. Clack clack clack. 3 pieces of meat with almost the same size and regular shape fell to the ground. Taking advantage of the moonlight, you can still see that the piece of meat is still shaking. Goo. Erwin, who was watching Lin Yan from a distance, was almost stunned on the big tree, swallowing a mouthful of saliva. Erwin could stuff an egg into his mouth that opened in shock. From Erwin's point of view, the titan attacking Lin Yan from a distance seemed to deliberately expose Lin Yan's flaws. Every shot of Lin Yan can achieve the maximum damage effect. It seems that Lin Yan is not fighting the titans, but slaughtering the titans. Thump, thump, thump. The titans whose necks were chopped off by Lin Yan fell down one after another, their huge bodies smashed down heavily, the ground shook and there was a heavy muffled sound. The body of the titan that fell on the ground began to emit white steam rapidly, and the body was dissipating rapidly. Ah, advertisement. The titan who was holding a big tree in the distance rushed over. He was Lin Yan's initial target. It is also the most powerful of these titans. Boom. Boom. Compared with the others, this 15-meter tall Wugo titan, the most obvious is that his head is several times larger than the average one. Lin Yan reckoned that this Titan's head was probably taller than his own. The Titan, like a big-headed doll, opened his mouth wide and rushed towards Lin Yan. His huge feet stepped on the ground one by one, and the ground was stepped out of huge potholes. There was a huge muffled sound of bang bang. Lin Yan, who landed on the ground, could clearly feel the violent shaking of the ground caused by the Titan rushing towards him. Lin Yan was like a small boat on the lake, which began to bump as the ground shook. Gas is running out. After feeling that there was not much gas, Lin Yan decided to make a quick decision, kill the Titan in front of him and leave. It turned out to be a strange species. This is terrible. In the distance, just as Erwin recovered from the shock, he saw the big-headed Titan rushing towards Lin Yan. Extraordinary speed, huge and sharp teeth that gleamed coldly, and tremendous strength. Erwin asked himself, even if he encountered it, it would be troublesome to deal with it. Whoops. Just when Erwin looked at the big-headed Titan, the sound of Titan's continuous roar sounded. A large number of Titans are gathering towards them. Upgrade points from Attack on Titan. Report. 11%. Chapter 37. Fierce Battle, Shock of the Survey Corps 1/4. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Years of experience told Erwin that if he didn't leave, once he was surrounded by Titan, he would confess to be here today. Lie down on a big tree. Erwin could feel a huge vibration coming from the ground. The big tree he was in was already shaking due to the violent vibration of the ground, and the shaking was getting bigger and bigger. The Titan, which was like a hill in the distance, was running towards where they were. Titan's huge body was extremely heavy, and every foot was like a heavy hammer hitting the ground. It's like stepping on the ground. The rocks they accidentally kicked while walking were shot out like cannonballs. Stones as big as millstones swept in, and trees as thick as bowls were constantly crushed. The stench in the air became more and more intense, and the Titan's roar seemed to shake the clouds from the sky. Black-haired boy, retreat, don't be brave. Erwin yelled with all his might in Lin Yan's direction. He and Lin Yan are far away, and he can only vaguely see that Lin Yan has black hair. Other than that, it can no longer be seen clearly. The superb skills that Lin Yan showed just now amazed him. He had been with the Survey Corps for many years, and had fought the Titans dozens of times. But still can't do as Lin Yan did just now, in the siege of a group of Titans still with ease. Advertisement. Moreover, he has never experienced fighting at night, and it is extremely difficult to use three-dimensional mobile devices at night. So after seeing Lin Yan's operation, as the leader of Survey Corps, he would love to invite Lin Yan to join the Survey Corps. People like Lin Yan were born to fight. Erwin didn't want to see such an excellent human being die in the hands of Titan. Damn, stupid boy. The moment Erwin yelled, the wire rope at Lin Yan's waist was shot out, and he watched Lin Yan quickly lift into the air under the tension of the wire. Disappointed and regretful cursed, Erwin thinks Lin Yan is too big. The strange species of Titan is no ordinary Titan. Even if a group of them from the Survey Corps came out, it would take a lot of effort to subdue the strange species of Titan. What's more, it's still night. The difficulty of combat has been greatly increased. In Erwin's view, Lin Yan's behavior is no different from courting death. Lin Yan frowned when he heard Erwin's voice in the distance. Lin Yan was just immersed in the battle with Titan, and didn't notice Erwin's arrival. But now it's not a question of whether it's discovered or not. Lin Yan had to deal with the Titan who was obviously much stronger than before. Advertisement. A distance of hundreds of meters is only a distance that can be crossed in an instant for a strange species of Titan. Cha 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 cha. The strange-looking Titan, as tall as a 6-story building, struck straight at it. It flies sand and rocks while walking, and every step carries a violent hurricane. The tall trees on the path were blown down by the huge wind and waves it brought. Some of the trees that were hit were staggered and uprooted. Rumble. Just as Lin Yan's body left the ground where he was standing, the place where he was standing was kicked by the Titan to create a big hole 1 meter deep and more than 2 meters deep. The huge footprints even cracked the ground. Under the sweeping air waves, the dust spewed out in all directions, and the range of more than 10 meters was completely covered by dust. It's now. In the dust-covered moment, Lin Yan dodged the Titan's kick. The steel cables around his waist shot out, hitting Titan's shoulders. Using this as a support, Lin Yan quickly rushed out of the smoke envelope under the pull of the steel cable. At the moment when the Titan grabbed the tightrope because of the severe pain, Lin Yan's body drew a half circle and went around behind the Titan. Lin Yan's eyes focused on the joint between Titan's thigh and calf. There is only one chance. Lin Yan is tightly holding the broad-bladed dagger in his hand, the power is transmitted from his waist to his hand, and the moment he turns rapidly on the steel cable, Lin Yan strikes decisively. Using all his strength to slash, the entire blade completely submerged into the gap between the joints of Titan's legs. Advertisement. Without any obstruction, the joint of one of Titan's legs was severed by Lin Yan. At the same time, Titan waved his hand like a steel cable on his shoulders, and at the moment when he was about to touch the steel cable, because his leg was cut off suddenly, Titan's body lost his balance and fell tilted for a while. The hand that was originally grabbing the steel cable was completely deflected by Titan's 6-story body. Without any hesitation, Lin Yan activated the cable button and quickly approached Titan's shoulder. Stepping on the Titan's body like a small building, he went straight to the back of Titan's neck. Boom! Titan's 6-story body fell to the ground with a bang, and the surrounding tall trees were crushed to the ground. The trees under the Titan were crushed even more. The 2 knives in Lin Yan's hands sank into Titan's neck at the same time. Chua chua chua. With 2 strokes, Lin Yan cut off 2 bloody Titan neck meat. Rumble. Titan, who was still struggling to get up, just propped up his huge body like a building, then fell heavily again, kicking up huge dust. The air waves swept out, blowing the leaves of the surrounding low trees. White steam diffused from the body of the strange species Titan, forming a mass of dense high-temperature steam. Before Lin Yan had the slightest pause, an even more frightening wave of air surged in the distance. Upgrade points from Attack on Titan. Report. 1. 11%. Chapter 38. The Mysterious Boy, Eren's Admirer 2 quarters. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Boom boom boom. Oh wow. The vibration of the ground is getting bigger and bigger. Shaking violently like a wave. Dozens of Titans came running from a distance. Each of them was about the same height as the strange-looking Titan just now, and Lin Yan's scalp felt numb looking at them. They are like a group of moving tall buildings, weird and extremely dangerous. Lin Yan didn't wait any longer, he pressed the button of the 3-dimensional mobile device and prepared to leave. The battle was resolved so quickly. Erwin moved quickly in the woods beside the city wall. While avoiding the attack of the Titans attacking him, he paid attention to the situation on Lin Yan's side. Lin Yan's reaction speed and grasp of timing made Erwin couldn't help applauding. Alone. Finished 3 unsullied Titans without any help, plus 1 stranger. And there was no injury at all, which seemed like a miracle to Erwin. It's been a long time for Erwin, and he hasn't seen someone who uses skills so superbly like Lin Yan. Lin Yan's technique has reached a level that is pleasing to the eye. Erwin watched the battle between Lin Yan and Titan extremely comfortable. He was in a good mood these days because of the Survey Corps losing a lot of soldiers. Break. Advertisement. Seeing Erwin being chased by the Titans, Lin Yan didn't have the slightest intention to take care of him. Feeling that his own gas is not much, Lin Yan has no intention of staying outside the city. He pressed the wrench, quickly approached the city wall, quickly climbed up the city wall, and disappeared into the night. This guy is so decisive. Erwin struggled to break free from the entanglement of the Titan, and was almost caught several times by the chasing Wugo Titan. He rushed up to the city wall, looking at the Titan who was screaming at him beside the city wall, he couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. Seeing Lin Yan who rushed up the city wall and disappeared quickly, Erwin couldn't help but praise Lin Yan for his decisiveness. When facing the Titan, doing what you can and never delaying is the essence of survival. In the past battles against Titan, Erwin has experienced many battles where huge losses were caused due to hesitation. Therefore, he couldn't help secretly admiring Lin Yan's precise timing. Disappeared. Who is this guy? Climbing up the wall, Erwin looked at the vast night and fell into deep thought. The black-haired boy just now had disappeared. Can't see the slightest trace. Head, are you okay? What you did just now was really beautiful. Yes, the 4 Titans were beheaded by the leader so quickly. Around Erwin, the garrison regiment who heard the movement outside the city, and everyone from the Survey Corps surrounded him. They watched Erwin climb up from the city wall and couldn't help admiring the battle just now. They stood on the city wall and saw vaguely by the moonlight. Although I can't see it very clearly, but the wailing and roaring of the Titan. Advertisement. And under Yeyu, Erwin's agile figure during the battle, and the constant chopping down of Titans, made their blood boil. Excited. Just now everyone was still guessing who would dare to go out of the city at night to fight the Titan. It wasn't me just now, it was a black-haired boy. It's not you, the leader. How is this possible? That kind of operation, and the control of timing, how is it possible for a young man? Hearing Erwin's words, everyone around was stunned. The battle just now, and the battle at night, was much more dangerous than the daytime battle. In the dark night, the difficulty of aiming a 3-dimensional mobile device requires more than double the line of sight. So everyone was a little skeptical, whether Erwin said that out of humility. Speak to Commander Pixis, let the people stationed in the regiment pay attention to a black-haired young man. Additionally, the patrolling of the city wall these days has been turned into spying. If there is any change, please let me know immediately. Erwin quickly issued an order, he wanted to find the black-haired boy today. Survey Corps needs people like this. Hearing Erwin's words, everyone was taken aback, the black-haired boy really existed. Not a character Erwin made up out of modesty. Everyone was shocked, Erwin would never make fun of military orders no matter what. What kind of young man can do this to such an extent? Everyone thought of the figure who killed the quartet under the night, and their doubts were pushed to the extreme. Advertisement. 3 days later, the sun was shining brightly in the sky, and a few pure white clouds were floating in the sky. The temperature of the sun is just right. An old gray cat was lying on a stone on a street corner basking in the sun. It stretched its limbs lazily, greedily enjoying the temperature of the sun. Xiao Wei, I brought you something to eat. A little boy sneakily took out a piece of bread from his pocket and handed it to the old cat's mouth. Because they often distribute food to old cats. The boy does not know how many times he has been scolded by his mother. After all, in the world inside the wall where supplies are tight for a long time, every bit of food is cherished by people. Last night, there was a black-haired boy who killed 4 titans. The people of the city wall sect say that it is an angel that descended from the sky. I don't believe it. I think he must be a human hero. The little boy was talking to the old cat. His eyes were full of curiosity and admiration for the black-haired boy. He also once thought about jumping out of the wall and beheading the titan. Instead of hiding in the walls and complaining about yourself. Eren, come here for me. How many times have I said, don't waste food? Upgrade points from Attack on Titan. Report. 11%. Chapter 39. Leaving, Lin Yan's purpose 3/4. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. The little boy is Eren. Hearing his mother's voice, he shrank subconsciously and stood up in a panic. What happened last night was widely circulated in the small town early in the morning. People are everywhere talking about the mysterious dark-haired boy. It has been a long time since Eren saw the people in the small town so happy and excited like today. After hearing the news, Eren was so excited, he ran around pumping his fists. Like he killed the titans himself. I know, Mom, I only gave it a little bit. Eren walked towards his mother, he turned around and made a face at the black cat, and left. In addition to his father, among the people he admired, there was another black-haired boy. Stationed in the regiment barracks. Pixis patrolled the walls. After taking a sip of wine, Pixis looked at the messy moat outside the city in the distance, and fell into deep thought. From the fallen trees, it can be seen how fierce the battle last night was. The originally flat land outside the city seemed to have been plowed. Not only was the dirt rolled around, but there were huge footprints everywhere. And a deep pit. The black-haired boy. Could it be him? Pixis received information from Erwin yesterday, and the first thing he thought of was Lin Yan. Advertisement. However, Pixis thought for a while and denied this idea. He and Lin Yan have known each other for almost 7 years. Lin Yan may be commendable in winemaking. But it would be too far-fetched to say that the boy yesterday was Lin Yan. Lin Yan, who grew up in Wangdu's underground street, probably doesn't even know what a titan looks like, let alone kill a titan. And it was still at night, surrounded by a group of titans, killing a strange species of titan. According to what Elvin said yesterday, that boy is obviously a master who knows the weakness of titan very well. Therefore, it can only be a member of the 4 major corps. The most likely of these are the Survey Corps, and the Training Corps, as well as the Garrison Corps. The chances of others being able to touch the titan are almost 0. Naturally, it was ruled out by Pixis. Lin Yan was not a member of the 4 major corps, so he was naturally the first to be excluded. Who on earth is it? After thinking for a while, Pixis couldn't help but frowned. It would be great if there were more boys like that. ... Inside the walls of Mary. In the vast wilderness, farmers have already started farming for a year. There have just been a few spring rains, and the air is filled with dampness. Now is a good time to plant seeds. This is the pioneering area. It is also the area with the largest cultivated area in the world within the entire wall. Advertisement. A quiet river meanders in this open field. The weeds on the riverside have sprouted, and a hint of light green can be seen faintly. By the small river, several women were washing clothes. Tuck tuck tuck. A horse was walking quickly on a dirt road in a field. When we got to the edge of the field, it slowed down. A black-haired boy got off his horse, led the horse, and came to the river to let the horse drink water. The boy is Lin Yan, who just left from the border. After breaking away from the battle with the Titan that day, Lin Yan left the Shiganshina district. This time he mainly wanted to confirm one thing. That is whether his fighting skills are practical against Titans. The answer satisfies Lin Yan. Even in the face of a Titan with a huge body, his fighting skills are still no different from ordinary people. This made Lin Yan couldn't help but marvel at the power of the system's martial arts, which ignores body size. So this time Lin Yan is here for a practical attempt. But the real purpose is to verify whether the system fighting technique has any limitations. After verification, Lin Yan no longer needs to stay. So Lin Yan left decisively. It's not right for you to feed the horse and drink water like this. This is a good horse. It has been running for a long time. You should let it cool down. While Lin Yan was waiting for his horse to drink water, a man with a hoe came over. Looking at Lin Yan, he said lightly. Advertisement. Before Lin Yan could speak, a dark-haired woman next to the man looked at Lin Yan apologetically and said. My little brother, don't mind, my husband is straight. It's okay, this uncle is right, I am indeed a layman feeding horses. Lin Yan is not dissatisfied with the way men meddle in their own business. Although the other party spoke directly, it was all for his own good. Looking at the woman next to the man, Lin Yan always felt a little familiar. But I just can't remember who it looks like. By the way, I'm from out of town. I want to board here for one night. If it's convenient for you too, I can pay for it. Seeing that it was getting dark, Lin Yan planned to stay here for one night and find some fodder for the horses. While talking, he took out 5 silver coins. You don't have to be so polite, if you don't dislike it. I do have a vacant guest room in my house. When the man saw the silver coin that Lin Yan handed over, he hesitated for a moment, then waved his hand to reject it. The man pointed to a wooden house in the distance, his tone full of pride. Although he is only a farmer, he has also worked hard through his own efforts. When I was very young, I built a small wooden building. Being able to own a small building with guest rooms can be regarded as a symbol of strength and wealth in this area. Uncle, you're welcome, collect the silver coins, or I won't go. Lin Yan put the silver coins into the middle-aged man's pocket seriously. Upgrade points from Attack on Titan. Report. 3. 11%. Chapter 40. Meeting Mikasa for the first time, Murder in the Rainy Night 4 quarters. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. He could see that maybe the man in front of him really had a house. But not necessarily rich. It was slowly getting dark. Lin Yan took his horse to rest at the man's house. He was going to ride back north tomorrow. It's getting dark, and my daughter hasn't come back yet, so I'll look for it. Let me go with you. I heard that there are a few human traffickers in the latest generation. What about the guests? It's okay, we'll be back in a while, and come back with some bread. Lin Yan was packing his luggage, and he could hear the conversation between the 2 peasant couples in the next room clearly. Hearing what the 2 said, Lin Yan nodded slightly. Lin Yan has been in this world for many years, and there are really few 2 people who are so enthusiastic like the ones I met today. Lin Yan took out a gold coin from his pocket and put it in the wardrobe of the guest room. For those who treat themselves sincerely, Lin Yan has never been stingy. Squeak. Outside the window, the sound of crickets sounded slowly, and it was completely dark. Mom and Dad, I'm back. Lin Yan is in the room painting the 3-dimensional motorized device inside the box. A crisp voice sounded from outside. Judging from the voice Lin Yan, the other party is a little girl. It should be the daughter of the 2 couples before. Kaka. Advertisement. Lin Yan closed the box and walked out from the house. Who are you? My father and mother. In the room, a little girl was standing in the living room with a bamboo basket. A head of black hair as black as ink, delicate facial features on a unique oriental face, a pair of big black eyes, rolling around. I'm a guest staying at your house temporarily. As for your parents, they should be back in a while. Lin Yan looked at the little girl in front of him, and couldn't believe it. The little girl is Mikasa, one of the heroines in the original book. The moment Mikasa appeared, Lin Yan confirmed Mikasa's identity, because Mikasa's appearance is too recognizable. Although she is only about 10 years old now. But Lin Yan recognized her quickly. Before, Lin Yan met Mikasa's mother by the river. He felt vaguely familiar. At this moment, he thought it was because the mother and daughter were very similar. Rumble. The weather changed as it said, and there was a dull thunder outside. Suddenly it began to rain. It's raining, what are you doing out there? I want to send umbrellas to mom and dad, big brother, don't run around. Mikasa put on a raincoat and rushed out of the house holding 2 umbrellas. Before Lin Yan stood up, the figure of Mikasa carrying a kerosene lamp disappeared into the rainy night. Tick-tock. The rain became heavier, and the rainwater gathered on the eaves and dripped down. Looking at the increasingly blurred kerosene lamp and Mikasa's back in the rainy night, Lin Yan felt a little uneasy. Advertisement. Nothing will happen. The lightning in the sky lit up the night sky from time to time, and Lin Yan always felt that something was wrong. Leaping on the horse, Lin Yan rode on the horse and chased after Mikasa where Mikasa disappeared. In the woods, an owl perched on a tree for shelter from the rain. It combs its feathers and shakes off the rain on its body from time to time. Bang bang. 2 muffled sounds sounded from under the tree where it was. With the sudden sound, the frightened owl fluttered its wings and quickly flew up from the tree. In a panic, the owl slammed into the dense branches. Trapped inside for a while, it was difficult to break free. Boom. There was a gunshot under the tree, and the struggling owl was shot through. There was no movement at all. You're crazy, an owl, what are you shooting for? Sorry boss, I'm a little nervous. You waste. A woman has wasted so much energy, such a good product, you beat me to death. A carriage was parked in the woods, and beside the carriage were 2 corpses, a man and a woman. 3 men stood by the carriage. 1 is fat and 2 are thin. The fat one was called Brook, with a whisker. There is also a hideous scar on his face, his eyes are fierce, his body is strong, and he exudes a sturdy aura. A long knife in his hand has been cut to curl the edge. Advertisement. The other 2 thinner men, one tall and the other short. Tall as a stick, with a long face, a mustache, and narrow eyes, the whole person looks weak. The short one had dark skin and carried a small hammer in his hand. The tall, thin man held a smoking shotgun in his hand and bowed his head. The strong and fierce Brook was smoking a cigarette, chopping the man's body with a knife on the ground one after another. He was punched in the face by a man just now, and he is still in pain. Every time Brook cuts down, some flesh and blood will be brought up, and he seems to be enjoying it with a happy face. Rumble. Thunder sounded again. In the woods, Mikasa hid behind a big tree. Click. Seeing the bodies of her parents being chopped into pieces by Brooke in the distance, her mind went blank. Accidentally stepped on a dry branch on the ground. The sound of branches snapping is especially harsh at night. Who's there? When the three people in front of the carriage heard the noise, they immediately became vigilant. Brooke, whose face was covered in blood and held a bloody machete, had a ferocious face. He yelled towards the woods, his murderousness in his voice undisguised. Boom. The tall and thin man raised his gun and shot in Mikasa's direction. Immediately, the three saw Mikasa running out from behind the big tree, and started to chase Mikasa. Stupid. Don't shoot, it's a good one. Celebrate the 7-day-long holiday of National Day and enjoy reading books. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge activity time. October 1st to October 7th. Advertisement.